It is near certain that the authors of America's Declaration of Independence and Lincoln's Gettysburg Address, text of agonizing beauty in the face of today's harsh realities, could not have anticipated a world in which spy cameras are hidden in cactuses. The government surreptitiously parses our verbal communications, and the concept of privacy is fast approaching extinction. They could not have anticipated a world in which information is the prime commodity of exchange, at the expense of grace, compassion, solitude, and the remaining fragile components of the besieged human heart. What they did anticipate is that governments, no matter how powerful, will always hunger for more power, and that power inevitably corrupts. Governments are composed of human beings, and all of the frailties that humans possess are absorbed into those governments and become active within these governments. Hatred, anger, jealousy, fear, greed, distrust, and the whole host of afflictions that humans must bear lurk just beneath the surface of civility displayed by government. When individuals become angry with one another, an injury of some sort will likely occur. When governments become angry, entire civilizations are wiped out. When individuals become greedy, they are no longer invited to dinner. When governments become greedy, starvation afflicts the weaker nations. When people become fearful, other people avoid them. When governments become fearful, the populace is included among those elements that the government fears, and the populace has nowhere to go. These truths are self-evident to anyone who cares to look with the right kind of eyes. More than 200 years ago, a document called the Declaration of Independence was penned by some of the greatest minds in the history of civilization. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that people are endowed with certain unalienable rights, that among these rights are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among people, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it. A scant 77 years after these words were written, a gaunt President Lincoln stepped onto one of the bloodiest battlefields in human history to admonish his current and all future generations to bear the responsibility of we, the governed. He said, "We must now dedicate ourselves to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead we take increased devotion to that cause for which they gave the last full measure of devotion, that we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth." I live in a country that has passed so many laws that at an average reading speed, it would take me 600 years to reading 24 hours a day. I'm protected by a government that invades my privacy so that it can assure me that I am not the enemy it is protecting me from. I live in a country that is governed by people largely illiterate in cybersecurity, as proven by the multiple government computer hacks. Yet cyber warfare is now the means of war. My government is dysfunctional. For the 300 million other Americans, you are in the same boat with me. So stand with me to protect our freedom. Visit McAfee16.com.